You don't know what minute 8 feels like unless you do minutes 1 through 7.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's hard about our training. It's hard to train minute 8 when you're always starting fresh. So that's where those back off sets can be good.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't mean to say like that's the only way that they're good, but I mean that's where they can be super useful, is going, okay, we're not in a stage where I'm doing an 8-minute set, or maybe I don't do 8-minute sets, but hey, I do 3 minutes rest, and then bang, straight into it. And I'm kind of trying to artificially create that scenario of 8-minute, even though it's not real.
Yeah. And if you're training at above competition pace anyways,
absolutely.
I mean, you should be able to achieve minute 8 fatigue at minute 6.
Yeah.
Right. And you can synthesize that. Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
Plus, I mean, above competition pace forces you, especially if you're really, really on point with your technique, it forces you to get into those positions quicker. Like if you can make 10 RPM feel slow, then when you do 8 RPM, you're going to be like, man, what's with all this time to breathe and relax, Mm-hmm. If you can make 12 RPM feel slow, 10 RPM feels like I have like so much time here, you know what I mean? And that's where I think a lot of people, and that's always been the thing I don't like about the 28 kilo bell, the in-between bells for ranks. I like the ranks across bells, like CMS for, rank 1 and CMS with 24s, say, is it encourages people to push pace.
Yep.
I'm not going to learn how to lift with speed unless I lift with speed, and all the sprint sets are great, but sprinting, doing 10, 11 reps a minute for a minute is not the same as doing 9, 10 a minute for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No matter how many times I do it.
Yeah. Let's go back into getting to your zero, because it just occurred to me. Eric St. Onge has been putting up videos on certain technical aspects of kettlebell lifting, and I think it was the last video where he was talking about getting back into the rack position from overhead and whether or not you should lift the heels or not. Now, I seem to recall you actually being a fan of keeping your heels down and just dropping straight into rack. Is that true?
Again, I was like this schizophrenic individual at the set in Vancouver where I had no idea what I wanted to do, and it was heels up sometimes, it was heels down, but generally, I especially with 24s. And I say that because, I was working with 32s for quite a while. So when I was working with the 32s and then doing a 24, I would more likely not lift the heels. And that's because for me, lifting the heels tended to be a little bit more of it was just a little bit longer. I just think of it as like a longer phase. And generally, when I would lift the heels, I would also then, and again, this isn't to say that it's a bad thing, but for me, I would also do like the knee bend when I would catch. So I would be more absorbing than I really needed to be. Mm-hmm. And that would be more wearing on my legs and more wearing on my quads, and not having that quite, as straight a leg position as some people can get in the rack. I do have to be a little, I am more mindful about my quads being fatigued. But say with 32s, I would probably do more of a toe lift to try and reach up and get those bells kind of into the chest and then settle it down. So it becomes a really short, even though I am meeting them halfway kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I started adopting that technique, actually, just kind of keeping my heels down, and I practiced that a lot in training, actually. It's particularly with the lighter bells, because obviously it's easier. But if anyone trains just basic presses as well, I mean, you get that experience just lowering the bells back into rack position. with your heels down anyway. But that is something I've actually practiced. And yeah, it will save a little bit of time. The other thing that will save a little bit of time is not doing a pendulum swing for your clean, right? Just going into more of a hard style clean. It'll get you back out of there a lot quicker. And to be honest, I haven't really found that it fatigues me that much more. Actually, when I did my first actual competition set of 28 kg snatch, that was predominantly a squattish style snatch that I did for him. I think I had to stop about 8 minutes, but I did something like 114 or something. And I didn't really find that to be my limiting factor, to be honest. And it was one of those things where I wanted to actually try out a full set doing a bit of a squattish snatch and see if my legs would tire out, if that would give out first. And that didn't seem to be the case. It wasn't my legs. It was still definitely my grip. So do you still keep the pendulum in your cleans? Do you ever consider trying to do more of a hard style clean, or how do you feel about that?
That would only really be if I was going fast,
racing the guy next to you.
Yeah. And I mean, end of the set, I'll get into that more of like a dead hang type clean. But in general, I don't have a very long clean stroke anyways. Like I don't get too far over. I don't do the big full leg straighten in the back, and I do the thumbs forward. So that tends to shorten it up as well. And then I don't do a big high clean. I tend to land it fairly tightly into the rack. So that's not really where I slow. It's more just being fit and being prepared to jerk straight out of the rack kind of thing. But definitely in snatches, I mean, my best snatch numbers on the 28 and the 32 in competition and in training have been, dead hang. Not dead hang, but like that more dead, straight down, straight up squat style snatch.
Not an extra re-lengthening in the bottom of the backswing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, the only thing that I've found, in all truth, because I think for most people, if you're a fit individual, the snatch isn't going to burn you out. I mean, they've done tests on it, and it doesn't really get that high into your VO2 max. Maybe if you're doing like a full on sprint with like a heavy bell, that might get you closer. But I think, I've never really felt like it was anything other than my grip, forearms, hands that have failed me on snatches. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unless you're physically going as fast as you can, it's doubtful you're going to hit that threshold.
Yeah. Of course, like, I've had nutritious issues where, I didn't eat well, or I was dehydrated, and then that caused me to, get fatigued faster. But, just in general, it's not that, like, especially with that kind of mid-weight bell, like with the 24, it's never fatigue that stops me from going, whatever.
Yeah.
It's being able to keep the bell in the hand. Right. So, but I think with cleans, more often than not, we're not trying to do above 12 reps a minute, and 12 reps a minute. I honestly think is a definitely doable pace with strong technique and still using a good swing back clean and.